Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CBT podcast. Raad, Ethan, thank you for once again coming on the podcast. And today we're going to talk about a big time trade in the NBA that I don't think anyone was expecting. And that has Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Malik Beasley, Patrick Beverly, Walker Kessler, Jared Vanderbilt, and 4 first-round picks. So the Utah Jazz got a haul back for a guy who has been the best defender in the NBA over the past 5 seasons. But the haul they got back was not something I expected. And I don't quite understand the move from a Minnesota standpoint, why you're making such a commitment to a guy who's the same position as your best player. But the last time we saw a team try and run twin towers, two big men, was New Orleans with DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, and it didn't have a lot of success. But so I question the perimeter defense with this team, as neither Gobert or Karl Anthony Towns are even mediocre on the perimeter. So if a team runs small ball, they're in trouble. But I'm curious what both of you guys think. So Raad, what do you think about this trade?
I got a lot to say. We'll start with the Timberwolves. You just pointed out, first of all, actually, when I saw this trade go down, before I even looked at the details, the first notey I saw was just the Timberwolves trade for Rudy Gobert. And I'm like, oh, well, there goes D'Angelo Russell. Because I did not even understand that they could acquire Rudy without trading D'Lo. Come to find out, like 10 minutes later, they managed to keep D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards, and they basically just moved their starting shooting guard and starting power forward and picks for Rudy Gobert. You just mentioned the perimeter defense. Obviously, the main issue with the Jazz and how Rudy got exposed in the playoffs was they had absolutely no perimeter defense. Every defender on the Jazz got blown by, and Rudy had to defend 5 different directions at once. I do not believe that will happen on the Timberwolves. D'Lo is a much improved defender and athletically can be just as good as Wiggins defensively if he puts his mind to it. And then between guys like Josh Okogie, who's a defensive specialist, Taurean Prince, what's his name? Jaden McDaniels, they have some lengthy guys who can get after ball handlers. I don't think that's the issue. Obviously, the biggest talking point is the Twin Towers. Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. How will it work? Obviously, I think it's pretty clear that Karl Anthony Towns is going to move to power forward. Offensively, I think his game was always more of a power forward than a center, especially defensively. He's been labeled soft by me and others. So
It's accurate.
I think it fits. I don't think there's a lot of forwards in this league that he can't hang with defensively, but like you said, small ball has been the bane of Rudy Gobert's existence. And I don't know how the Timberwolves will handle it. It does not look good, but overall, I love this move from the Timberwolves' perspective. They have not been good for a long, long time. Last season, they popped off, they made the playoffs, and they are now fully committing to try and win something. They sold their future to try and cover some of Cat's shortcomings defensively. Whether or not you think Rudy is as good as some of the all NBA voters say he is, I have personally been a Gobert hater, but I still think when you're a team as desperate as the Timberwolves are and you have a good season, you got to do whatever you can to try and improve while you can. And I like this move from their perspective.
As someone that has seen a double big lineup for a lot of years now, I think of it as basically uh, a lesser athletic Robert Williams and a better Al Horford by a mile, if you think about it.
They're both Dominican.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I see their double big lineup going. I don't like the trade because you're basically committing your future to Rudy Gobert. Like,
When you put
and
it that way.
yeah, that's what I mean. And you give up a lot of, not a lot, but you give up your role players basically. So you basically give up your bench and two of starters and your future for another center when you just committed 50 plus mil to Karl Anthony Towns
Annually.
annually.
Mhm.
So I personally am not one that is fond of the trade. I think you could have used all those players and those picks for someone that, maybe in the market, like, KD, just saying, just saying. I think those picks could have been like, way better and to put to better use. On the Utah Jazz side, they they got a steal. I'm sorry. All those picks, I'm sorry. Like, and you already wanted to get rid of Rudy Gobert. You basically got what you wanted. You wanted picks for the future. You wanted a bunch of role players. Like, I think Utah won that trade by a mile. And that's just my opinion on it. The I don't see the Timberwolves being better. I think I don't think it'll be like, this wide margin of, oh, we're way better now. I think they'll make the playoffs, good 7 seed, especially with how strong the West is gonna be next year. I think it'll be like, a good 7 seed, maybe 6. But that's like their height. I don't see them going any further. Now Utah, with Danny Ainge behind the scenes running everything. I mean, this is kind of like what you saw whenever he traded away Paul Pierce and KG. So, oh, sorry, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But Utah still won this trade by a mile, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Timberwolves kind of already had Cat playing the 4 on offense and had Jared Vanderbilt as a
Yeah.
5, as strange as that was. But that's how poor Cat has been defensively. So Rudy Gobert is obviously the perfect guy for Cat. He complements him very well. I don't think this makes Minnesota a contender in my eyes. I think they'll be somewhere in the 4 to 6 seed range in the West. The West is just so incredibly strong, and they just don't have enough in my eyes. But what they do have, they're the first team in history to have 2 players with $200 million contracts on their roster. So they're going to be paying these guys for a very long time. And as you said, Ethan, the Jazz got exactly what they want. They split up Donovan and Rudy, which has been coming for, I think, a couple of seasons now. We expected it to happen a long time ago. And they set themselves up really nicely. I mean, Minnesota is going to be giving them draft picks until the year 2029. So they positioned themselves in a really nice way where they can build this roster around Donovan Mitchell, which is what they have said they wanted to do. And I don't know if I agree with that entirely, but they have all the assets they could ever want at their disposal now, courtesy of the Timberwolves. It's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible they make a run at KD because they have the assets to do it now. I don't think KD would want to go to Utah. I don't think the Nets front office would do that to KD, but just keep an eye out for it. The Jazz could be sneaky contenders for KD.
Yeah, we all knew Donovan and Gobert would not play any more games together. I think the, the population of NBA fans has been wanting them to split up for years now. They finally got it done. Quinn Snyder went insane trying to make them work together. They just didn't. It was a debate between Jazz fans and everybody. Who should you keep, Rudy or Donovan? I would have said Donovan. The Jazz said Donovan. And, you know, this gives them, like you said, a lot of options in what direction they want to go. Don't be fooled. If they make the right moves, they will still be a playoff contender. This is a team that's had one of the highest win percentages in the league the past several seasons. Even after losing their only all-star and Gordon Hayward, they came right back and improved. So I'm not really worried about them falling off a cliff or rebuilding. That's not what they're trying to do. They are changing the direction of how they want to play. They are
Restructuring.
they are no longer trying to funnel players inside defensively and hoping Rudy cleans it up. They're no longer trying to cover for Rudy's lack of offensive game. They're going to try and spread the floor out. And Patrick Beverley and Jared Vanderbilt are two of the best role players in the NBA. Every team could use a Pat Bev and a Jared Vanderbilt. And now with 4 first-round picks, the Jazz could basically pull off any trade they want, maybe outside of KD, to put a second star, which they do need to go out and get somebody else to carry some of the offensive load now for Donovan. The only thing I'm concerned with is I think the only center on their roster right now is the guy they just acquired from Minnesota. What's his name, JJ?
Walker Kessler from
Walker
Auburn,
Kessler,
who was
the
very
defensive
similar to
player,
Gobert, actually.
defensive player of the year in the SEC last year, tall center. So maybe they could, use him in a similar fashion, but they are trying to get faster. This is Donovan's team. They're letting everybody know that now. And with this many picks, you can't say somebody lost a trade.
Are they able to trade those picks like right away?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
they can trade them whenever they
So
want.
you really don't think that they could have like stocked up on those picks for KD?
I mean,
Well,
how many teams can offer? Because they can offer their own picks now too to the Nets. So
Yeah,
I'm saying they could
So,
make a real run, and
they
a lot of
could.
this I think has to do with the coaching change that the Jazz have seen.
Yep.
Danny Ainge, when a new coach comes in, likes to entirely reshape the roster. When Brad Stevens went to Boston, that's when he traded Paul Pierce and KG. Now that Will Hardy, Boston's top assistant, former, has entered Utah, he's allowing him to just get a fresh start and build the team how he wants it, which obviously is the best thing you can do for a head coach because he's got a system in mind. And now he has the assets to build a team that can fit that system. So I think the Jazz did very well here. I think they won the trade personally, but that has yet to be seen. It depends if Minnesota is good throughout the next decade almost. Raad, Ethan, any final thoughts from you guys really quick?
nope.
No,
Nothing?
just the fact that I think KD may actually like the odds for KD going to Utah may have just shot
Oh, they
up.
definitely jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a question of if he wants to go to Utah because, as I'm sure we're all aware, Utah has not had the best culture surrounding basketball in
Yes.
recent times. Yeah, that's all we're gonna say about that. We're gonna thank you guys for once again checking out the podcast. We ask you please drop a like, subscribe, comment. Do you think the Gobert move was good for Minnesota? Who won the trade? Are the Jazz gonna do well? Well, that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Rod and Ethan, for joining me once again, and we will see you guys in the next episode.